Have you ever noticed how financial anxiety rarely looks dramatic? It doesn't always show up as debt. It doesn't always show up as crisis. It doesn't even always show up as visible instability. Sometimes it looks responsible, careful, organized. And yet, beneath that appearance, there's tension. A subtle tightness in the body when you open your banking app. A lingering discomfort before spending even on necessities. A mental rehearsal that won't fully quiet down at night. Financial anxiety is often invisible, even to the person living inside it. And what makes it more complicated is this. Many of the behaviors it creates look like maturity, but they are not always stability. Sometimes they are fear wearing a responsible mask. Today, we're going to explore 10 subtle behaviors people with financial anxiety tend to repeat, often without realizing it. Not to judge, not to diagnose, but to increase awareness. Because awareness is the beginning of emotional regulation, and emotional regulation is the beginning of financial peace. You open your banking app, then again a few hours later, then again before bed. There has been no transaction, no new deposit, nothing has changed. But you check anyway. On the surface, this looks like discipline. But neurologically, this is reassurance-seeking behavior. Each time you check, uncertainty drops for a moment. The nervous system relaxes. There's a small dopamine release, relief. The relief feels stabilizing. But here's the hidden loop. Relief reinforces repetition. Your brain begins to associate calm with verification. I can only relax if I confirm. Over time, trust in your overall financial structure weakens. Monitoring becomes the source of safety. The problem isn't checking. The problem is believing that checking is what creates stability. Real stability isn't constant verification. It's confidence in structure, even when you're not looking. Canceling a subscription, switching insurance providers, opening an investment account, negotiating a bill. None of these are catastrophic decisions, yet they linger for months. It feels like procrastination, but internally it's something deeper. This behavior is strongly connected to loss aversion, the psychological tendency to fear losses more than we value gains. Making a decision creates exposure, and exposure creates vulnerability. What if I choose wrong? What if I regret it? Waiting feels safer than choosing, but waiting is not neutral. It slowly erodes self-trust. Every delayed decision sends a quiet message to your identity. I can't handle financial choices. Over time, hesitation becomes self-perception. Small decisions are not just logistical, they are exercises in autonomy. And autonomy builds confidence. Job loss, economic collapse, medical emergencies, unexpected expenses. These scenarios often appear when the lights go off. It feels responsible, prepared, strategic, but most of the time it isn't planning. It's threat simulation. At night, the brain becomes more sensitive to uncertainty. Cognitive defenses soften, and unresolved fears surface. The mind prefers a defined disaster over ambiguous risk. A concrete catastrophe feels easier to process than vague uncertainty. So you imagine it in detail, but there's no resolution, no practical next step. Just activation. Your nervous system stays alert, the body remains tense. You call it preparation, but it's prolonged exposure to fear. True planning ends with structure. Rumination ends with exhaustion. There is a difference. Groceries, medical appointments, home repairs, replacing worn-out clothes. Instead of neutrality, there's evaluation. Should I really be spending this? Is this irresponsible? Money becomes moralized. Spending triggers identity judgment. This often originates in early conditioning. If money was scarce, if spending caused conflict, if financial mistakes were punished, then spending becomes emotionally loaded. Even now, in adulthood, each expense activates self-assessment. Am I being wasteful? Am I repeating mistakes? Am I safe? This erodes your ability to experience earned stability. You might have enough, but you cannot relax into having enough. And that's what financial anxiety does. It disconnects reality from perception. You read dozens of reviews, watch multiple comparison videos, ask friends for reassurance. Revisit the decision repeatedly. It looks analytical, thoughtful, strategic, but often it's avoidance. The more you research, the more flaws you discover. And flaws increase perceived risk. Information becomes fuel for hesitation. The real need underneath is not the best option, it's certainty. But certainty rarely exists in small financial decisions. Eventually, growth requires tolerance of imperfection. Choosing something good enough builds far more resilience than endlessly searching for perfect. Confidence isn't built through flawless selection. It's built through surviving imperfect outcomes. At my age, I should be further. They already own property. They seem stable. This comparison is rarely loud. It's internal, and it's deeply connected to identity. Financial anxiety often hides inside timeline comparison, but financial timelines are shaped by invisible variables: health, family support, economic cycles, education, traumatic events, geography, opportunity. When dignity becomes attached to milestones, delay feels like failure. But adulthood brings a quieter truth. There is no universal schedule. There is context, and context matters more than comparison. Your path reflects your life, not someone else's highlight reel. You understand long-term growth principles. You know investing historically builds wealth, but cash feels safe, predictable, visible, stable. Markets feel volatile, uncertain, exposed. This is ambiguity aversion, preferring known stability over uncertain gain. But here's the deeper layer. Cash provides emotional control. Investing requires tolerance of fluctuation, and fluctuation feels threatening to a nervous system trained by instability. The resistance isn't mathematical, it's emotional. Gradual exposure to uncertainty, measured, informed, structured, helps rewire this. Not reckless risk, not blind optimism, but progressive tolerance. Financial growth requires participation. And participation requires emotional resilience. You get a raise, you pay off debt, you hit a savings goal. Instead of relief, a new fear appears. What if this doesn't last? This is hedonic dampening, suppressing positive emotion to brace for potential loss. It feels protective. If I don't celebrate, I won't be disappointed. But it traps the nervous system in defense mode. Even improvement doesn't register as safety. And when success never lands emotionally, progress feels hollow. Allowing yourself to feel stability, even temporarily, is part of healing. Not arrogance, not complacency, just acknowledgement. I did something well. That acknowledgement strengthens identity, and identity shapes future behavior. Spreadsheets, 5-year projections, complex budget systems. Planning activates the rational brain. It feels organized, grounded in control. And anxiety decreases, but execution involves exposure, real action, real consequences, so planning becomes the comfort zone. The plan symbolizes control, execution threatens identity. This creates a painful gap between intention and behavior. The issue isn't intelligence, it's emotional tolerance. Action builds confidence. Planning simulates it. True financial maturity integrates both structure and movement. I'll feel safe when I reach $50,000, when I pay off this debt, when my income increases. But when that number arrives, it shifts. The target moves. Because the anxiety was never about the number, it was about uncertainty tolerance. Without emotional regulation, no amount feels sufficient. Security becomes a horizon that recedes as you approach it. Real safety isn't a number. It's the ability to remain steady, even when numbers fluctuate. Integration, the hidden pattern beneath all 10. If you look at these behaviors together, a pattern emerges. Each one is an attempt to control uncertainty, checking balances, delaying decisions, rehearsing disasters, over-researching, holding cash, dampening joy, planning without action. These behaviors are not irrational. They are adaptive responses to unpredictability. At some point in your life, instability may have felt overwhelming. So your nervous system learned to anticipate, monitor, and control. But strategies that once protected you can later restrict you. Financial maturity isn't about eliminating caution. It's about transforming fear-driven behavior into awareness-driven behavior. That transformation is gradual. It happens through noticing when you check for reassurance, recognizing when delay is avoidance, interrupting catastrophe rehearsal, allowing small wins to land, taking imperfect action. Over time, the nervous system learns something new. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, but survivable, and that changes everything. If you recognized yourself in several of these patterns, pause, not with criticism, but with compassion. You were not irresponsible, you were adaptive. Financial anxiety is not a character flaw. It's often a learned survival pattern. But survival is different from stability, and adulthood offers something powerful. Reconstruction, not dramatic change, not overnight transformation. Gradual reorganization. Financial peace doesn't begin with a bigger income. It begins with internal steadiness, the ability to tolerate ambiguity, to make decisions without perfection, to feel progress without bracing for collapse. Money will always carry uncertainty, but your relationship with it can become calmer, more measured, more grounded, less reactive. There is still time, not for shortcuts, but for consistency. Financial maturity is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't compete. It doesn't rush. It simply builds, slowly, steadily, through awareness. And awareness is where stability begins. If this conversation felt familiar, this space exists for you. For adults who understand that money is never just money, it's memory, identity, fear, hope, time. And rebuilding that relationship is one of the most mature things you can do. Calmly, without urgency, without shame, just steadily.